Well, good morning and welcome to another episode of the Marvinizer Mastery Group. Hope everybody had a great weekend and happy Monday, May 12th. We got a great lineup again today. I got the word of the day. I got Cal trying to stump me with Ask Marvin Anything, and then we'll switch gears from the last couple of weeks' topic, which we talked about overcoming objection. We're going to start on closing. We'll talk about a couple different types of closes here today. But before we get into that, just so you know, next week will be a recorded session because I'll be out of town. And May 26th will be a recorded session because it's Memorial Day and Memorial Day weekend. So, and let me wish everybody a happy Memorial Day weekend even before we get to that point. But let's jump into the word of the day. The word of the day today is silence. Just silence. And I ask people all the time, how long can you stay silent before you get nervous and let the awkward silence, so to speak, put you in a position where you're doing an information dump? So master the art of silence. It's what our parents told us growing up, or someone told you. Think before you speak, right? Or even think before you act. And that's going to require some self-control. A wise person said nothing. And to take that a step further, smart people know what to say, but wise people know when it should be said. So you want to be smart and wise. Master the art of the awkward silence. Use that for your advantage and not let that put you in a situation where you panic and open up your mouth and Lord knows what you might say. So the word of the day, word of the week, silence. All right, I'm ready for Ask Marvin Anything. Cal, what's the question you got for me?
So this week we got a question that says, how can I improve my emotional intelligence to close more deals?
Well, to me, the key word to emotional intelligence is that word emotion. And I think one of the ways to really help us close more deals, maximizing our emotional intelligence, is self-control, kind of what I just got through talking about, controlling your emotions. And one of the best ways to control your emotions and increase your emotional intelligence when it comes to really getting more commitment, actually it's a series of commitment. We'll talk a bit about that today. But you really have to be in control of your emotions, which means, like I've already said this morning, you're thinking, this is funny how these things line up. You're thinking before you speak. You're thinking before you act. And the best way to be in control is through preparation and practice. You know, how do I end every session here, Cal? I always say, don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you won't get it wrong. You know, so are you looking for the buying signal that the customer is giving you? Because if your emotions are running high, you're going to miss the buying signal. So let's not miss the buying signal. And buying signals are either verbal or visual. So if you're in control of your emotions and really maximizing that EI, that emotional intelligence, it'll help you be a lot more effective when it comes to closing sales. And speaking of closing sales, that's what we're talking about here today. In any book I've read, Cal, it talks about you have to ask for the order. And this is interesting because even in my book, I talk about closing and what it takes. And any book I've read, it talks about an average of 3 to 5 times that you have to make that request before you can get that yes. And you should know that from remember when you wanted to use the car for the first time, even though you got your license and you thought you're going to drive off into the sunset. The first ask, second ask, third ask, fourth ask. How many times did you have to ask before you finally got the car? Well, you were pleasantly persistent. And we need to be pleasantly persistent in our approach to get commitment. And I want to talk about 2 ways real quick here on how we should be getting commitment. First and foremost, sometimes you just need to be direct. You know, some situations call for you to be direct. You're not going to try to beat around the bush or sneak up on the customer. You're going to use a direct question. How'd you like to pay for that? When could we get started? I mean, you can't be any more direct than that. But then sometimes you have to be assumptive. And you see a lot of the assumptive closes using, matter of fact, sometimes it's overly used because if you use an assumptive close with that wrong personality, they may wind up thinking you're being pushy. But an assumptive close used at the appropriate time, oh my goodness, it's a great way to move that situation forward. I actually used an assumptive close myself last week, and I just said, how many people are going to be in the training session? In other words, I'm assuming we're going to do the training. I'm just asking how many people are going to be involved. And I love using the assumptive close with someone that doesn't mind me, moving this thing forward. Because some people, they're ready to buy. And if you recognize that signal, whether it's verbal or visual, why not use an assumptive close, to move that conversation forward? So 2 closes today, work on those, direct close or direct questions. Assumptive close is having that assumptive mindset, really feeling that you're going to be able to move that situation forward. And I saw Marie, she took her phone off, her thing off mute. Marie, did you want to say something this morning?
Oh, no, I'm just listening, taking it all in. Thank you.
I just want to make sure you're one of my faithful people that come on here, and I appreciate you, Marie. I appreciate you being
Thank
here.
you.
But yeah, you got to ask, and you got to be pleasantly persistent in your pursuit to get that opportunity. So as we close out here today, don't forget the word of the day is silence. Don't forget that emotional intelligence means that you have to use some self-control and not let your emotions dictate what happens next, and be able to see that closing opportunity. And then last, experiment with some of these closes: direct close, assumptive close. Be assumptive, be assertive, but more important, ask for the order, because you have not, because you ask not. And remember, preparation and practice provides peak performance. What do I say all the time? The way you practice is the way you play. Don't practice until you get it right. Let's make sure we practice until we won't get it wrong. Thank you, and let's make it a great week. Bye-bye for now.